welcome to Women Achievers. This is the program that profiles women who are achieving in their own space, especially growing up in Nigeria as a girl child to boss lady. This is the chronicle of their lives. What has happened, what has inspired them, what was the process like to arrive at boss lady. And I have with me as guest today, Zainab Marwa Abubakar. She is a gender advocate. She runs Aspire Women Forum by the side. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And my humble self, Maiwa Oluwabi. So let me ask you, what was it like growing up?
Growing up was really amazing. I had a wonderful childhood.
Okay.
My parents were just the best.
Wow.
My mom...
your mom is Igbo, your dad
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say.
Okay.
My mom was Igbo, and my dad is from Adamawa State. So growing up was really energetic. They were very young when they had us. I think I'm the last from my parents. So it was just really exciting, and it was adventurous. It was just so loving and wonderful.
Tell us about your school and working experience.
Well, I graduated from secondary school at the age of 16. I went to Essence International in Kaduna.
Okay.
And from there, I went to the UK, studied in Kent for a year, got my integrated degree program. I did law, sociology, and government and politics.
Okay.
From there, I went on to university. At the tender age of 17, I studied law and finished from there, came back to Nigeria for Bar Part 1, which is a prerequisite for the call to bar. And then after Bar Part 1, I actually went back to England and got an MSc in service management.
Okay.
Then I came back to Nigeria, completed my Bar Part 2, was called to the bar in 2004, about 18 years ago, and started working, did some work with Philips Consulting in Lagos, worked in my dad's airline, Albarca Air Services, worked with Servicom. I served as the special assistant to the national coordinator of Servicom. Also worked under DFID for the training institute that's under Servicom. And then I got married and had 4 children.
Wow.
In a space of 8 years.
Wow.
And then decided to come out of my hibernation.
So who is the lucky man?
Well, I'm married to Dr. Abdulkadir Abubakar.
But you must have a very supportive husband. Tell us about him.
Yes, he's very supportive.
And he's not a political person.
Well, he's a technocrat.
Oh, okay.
He has a doctorate in disaster resilience from the University of Salford in the UK. And he studied international relations, has his MBA, so I think he's more of a technocrat.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
You ran for House of Reps.
Yes, I did.
What was the journey like? Tell us, share your experience. It's tough for women out there.
It is very tough on so many levels, financially, and obviously the sort of stereotype that's out there. For you to be an active politician as a woman, you must be a prostitute. That's the only way. So wow. There's so many stereotypes, negative, very negative out there. There's a lot of stigma attached to women that want to run for office. But I think that's lifting a little bit now. But yeah, when I ran, it was very difficult, especially because I was pregnant. On the day of my election, I was about 8 months pregnant. Running for House of Reps on different levels. You mentioned my dad, who happens to be a notable figure in the country. And so a lot of people, especially the men, would tend to go back to him and tell him, oh, we think your daughter should do this. What do you think she should do? We had to call a meeting and he had to address them. And all the same was very fulfilling. I made a lot of friends, met a lot of mentors. A lot of doors were opened for me because I ran. So it's never a wasted venture if you give it your all, because I did go to each and every one of the 22 wards in my constituency. So it was quite rewarding.
With a security challenge, and you grew?
Yes, but I don't think it was as pronounced as it is now. in 2018, unfortunately. Such a short period of time, so many things have changed.
Yes.
I don't think Abuja was seen as a place where you had to be so security conscious back then. That being said, of course, I went around with my personal security, and we didn't have any big incidents. Yeah.
So what advice will you give young women who want to aspire to be a politician, run for office?
I would suggest to them that they do it for the right reasons.
Okay.
At the top of my list is service to humanity, and I always talk about that. I believe that we only rise by lifting others, and I believe that a life well lived is a life that you can look back and see the people that you've actually helped. So for any woman that would be going into politics, I would strongly suggest that they get their mind right with regards to why they are going into politics. I would also suggest that you get your pocket right, because politics is not an exercise in poverty, as they say. It's very financially tasking, and it will take a toll on your finances, and so you have to have a good plan that you can fall back on in case if things don't work out the way that you would want them to work out.
Okay.
And know that it takes a lot of hard work, physical toil. It takes a lot of mental work, so you will be exhausted most of the time. It takes a lot of people skills. You'll meet all sorts of people, some good and some not as good. And so you have to be able to, feel your way through the crowd and behave accordingly.
So let me take you to your special duty now. Your special assistant to the Minister of the FCT on community relations.
Yes.
Well, what does that entail?
Well, community relations really looks at the relationship between the state and the residents of the state being the FCT. So it looks at how the minister's office and how the FCDA and FCTA get to relate with the members of the various and varied communities within the FCT.
Okay. So how has it been on the job? How tasking is it?
It's been good. Of course, it's tasking. With 5 kids, it's a sort of a juggling act. I'm a student as well on 2 different. I am.
Wow, online job maybe.
I'm doing one online with Harvard University, and then I'm doing one in Nasarawa State, my PhD in gender studies.
So tell us about the Aspire Women's Forum.
Well, I started Aspire Women in 2019, and it was born out of a need that I noticed, a gap that I noticed for women when I was running for House of Reps, FCT, Amakambwari Federal Constituency in 2018. I noticed that there was a gap. There was not much cushioning for women. There was not much sort of motivation to continue pushing and acting, and then especially for the younger ones, not much mentorship to also bring them up. So I started Aspire Women Forum, and the main objective that we have is to equip women with the tools, the right tools to self-actualize. It's that simple. Wow. So we use motivational. Yes. Well, not the traditional skills. Mm-hmm. So we're not teaching you how to make soap or how to sew. We're rather giving you the life skills for success in whatever field that or endeavor that you may have. Because if you look at it, a lot of economic empowerment programs fail, and that's because the women are not with the right mindset. And so when you give them the money to do business, they end up spending it for instant gratification, because they don't have the tools to try to run it. Yes, and be successful at it. They don't have the mindset. Mm-hmm. And so we do what we call motivational behavioral coaching.
Wow.
which is basically to teach them things, simple things like having a purpose in life, fulfilling your purpose, having a vision, having goals, and things like that.
So you use life
we
coaches?
train them. Yeah, we use a lot of life coaches. We use psychologists. Yes. And then we use industry experts because we found that there is a gap between the happiness of a woman and her unhappiness. And to fulfill it, what we tried to do is to come up with a regimen. And so we came up with the FES regimen, FES, finance, emotion, and spirituality. And so we started to do that and started to train them along these three thematic areas. We found that a lot of women actually came out of their shells and started to do better in life generally.
Well, let's go on a short break and we'll be right back. Women Achievers will continue. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Women Achievers, and on the hot seat is Zainab Marwa Abubakar, a gender advocate. She's in the house, and we'll be talking a lot about gender, her upbringing, growing up in Nigeria as a girl child, and now she's a boss lady at Aspire Women Forum. So now we're talking about Aspire Women Forum. Where do you see the forum in the next 5 years?
I see Aspire Women hosting happy conferences around the globe. I see us partnering with a lot of organizations, trying to figure out how to really ease up the woman's life and make things more comfortable. Aside from the motivational behavioral coaching, we also look into an increased political inclusion of women, because politics really does decide everything. Your children's school fees, the price of beans in the market is all politics. And women need to take a more active role in both elective and appointive positions. And so we do have some sort of gatherings around the more political inclusion of women as well in Nigeria.
In governance?
Yes, in governance.
So I want you to speak to the young girl growing up, because now we seem to have this microwave generation. They don't believe in process. So I want you to talk to them, maybe as a life coach, or from a legal perspective.
Well, no, let's take it from a life coach, sort of perspective. There must be a process. And if you do not go through the process, you don't appreciate the outcome. The end does justify the means, but the means is also very important. So I want to appeal to the Nigerian girl to take it easy on herself and be patient with herself. Just like you said, there's a process. You need to have a vision for yourself. You need to be able to look into the future and see the woman that you will be. And then you need to work hard each and every day to create that future for yourself. So I'm talking about being purpose-driven. I'm talking about being clear, crystal clear as to what you want for yourself. I'm talking about not falling into the age-old problem of what can I do for others? What can I do for others? You need to sit back and think about what you can do for yourself. The more you take care of yourself, the more you work hard for yourself, the better wife you'll be, the better mother you will be, the better politician or businesswoman you will be. I want to tell the young Nigerian woman to focus on education, because that's one thing that nobody can take away from you. And I think ultimately I want to tell them what John F. Kennedy, I believe, said, which is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And if you come from that sort of place, I believe that to serve will be easier for you. When you come from a place of hope and a place of progress and a place of assistance, you would find that you would be more channeled towards being a better version of yourself, creating that beautiful shift, into womanhood, where you rise above you rise above things and you don't let everything get you down.
All right, now that you mentioned it, this Instagram thing, there's a craze on that Instagram. And a lot of children, a lot of girls are feeling they don't feel worthy of themselves, thinking that maybe there's something they're not doing. You need to speak specifically to those girls.
To speak to this Gen Zers, as they're called, the Gen Z.
Gen Z.
It's quite unfortunate and very difficult to understand that their validation comes from the internet most of the time, in terms of their likes and their views on social networks such as Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, more so. And it's unfortunate that their popularity is based on the sort of TikToks and dances and ludicrous things that they can do for the general public. So I want to speak into their hearts to the point that you are not what others think you are. You are beautifully created and crafted by God.
Yeah.
And the whole universe had to conspire, miraculously so, for you to be here. And so I believe that they should not seek validation from outside. They should seek validation from inside, in being good people, in being good children, in being good carers, and focusing more on their life skills than focusing particularly on how many likes they get. I think the internet is a very dangerous and dark place. It's a very scary place. And it's a place where everyone is sort of anonymous. And so people can tell you anything and get away with it. The trolls, exactly. And they can get away with it. And so it's very, very dangerous. It is affecting the self-esteem of a lot of children. And so as parents, our job then becomes to build them up and not tear them down. Our job then becomes to speak, to fortify them, to speak success into them, to speak confidence into them, to speak courage into them. That is now our job. Yeah.
And I also want you to touch on this issue we discussed earlier on another platform: the rise of sexual offense, sexual harassment. There's so many sexual predators out there preying on small children.
Yeah.
The girl child is under siege.
The girl child is under siege. I quite agree with you.
What is government doing? What should government do? Or we as mothers?
Well, we as mothers, I think that there are certain telltale signs that you watch out for. For example, you might have a friend's house that you take your daughter to, and you find that she's always, or even an uncle. I mean, the world is so crazy now that even fathers and grandfathers are raping their own daughters. So it's not. It must not be a friend. It could also be a family member. So you have to watch. Usually family, right? So you have to watch out for those places that you mention and your daughter clams up. Those places that you mention and she tells you, "Mommy, I don't want to go." Listen to her. When she's trying to speak to you, listen to her. And also, I think we have to also watch the sort of interaction that our girls are having these days. I don't let my girls sit on men's lap. Like back in the day, you can easily sit on an uncle's lap. I don't let my girls do that. Yes, because you don't want them to be used to it and make a mistake and sit on the wrong person's lap. So you watch things like that. You talk to them. You have to be open with your kids, and we have to also control the way the children use the internet, so that they don't grow up in this world where they become desensitized by things that they shouldn't be desensitized about. So I think safety is just key. Being alert. It's no longer allowed for the community to raise the child. Before they say it takes a village to raise a child, but now not so much, because everyone is taking offense. Your neighbor cannot scold your child because who are they to do that? Who are they to raise your child for you? So the world has really moved on and changed. So many things have changed. And I think we just need to roll with it. But I think as mothers, we need to be very cautious about this incidence of sexual harassment, rape and other forms of
minors,
of violence of minors.
Small as 2 years old.
Absolutely. It's really
crazy.
It's really disheartening, but it is happening, and so we should be careful.
Okay, but the government has some specific.
Yes, of course. The Minister of Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Talon, she has been doing a lot of work to do with this sort of gender-based violence against the girl child. They've launched a lot of interventions, yes, in partnership with various international donors, actually, and within the country, even within the UN. There are a lot of women that are actually standing up and speaking out, and then creating, helping to create systems that would keep this at bay. They've launched a lot of programs in Nigeria of late, where we're all working together, I think, with women, even such as yourself, to try to ensure that these crimes are brought down to the bare minimum.
Yes. We seem to focus more on the girl child. We're overprotecting them. But we also need to speak to the male children who may likely become rapists of tomorrow.
I absolutely agree.
What's your take on that?
I agree that
because somebody is raising those kind of boys or men that rape little children.
That rape little children. So I think that it's not just about speaking to the girls. To the girls. You also telling the girls how to protect yourself, because you're making the crime about the girl. Yes. You're making the crime about the victim.
Yes.
So you need to actually speak to the men, the boys, and tell them how to behave properly. Yes. And then you also need to speak very much to mothers.
Okay.
Because the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. So the mother actually has to take ownership. And I think that we need to really speak to the women and help them, give them the tools to raise the children, because they might not know. You think that it's just common knowledge, it's automatic, as if when you have a child, some rule book pops out with the child teaching you how to. It doesn't work like that. So a lot of women actually don't know how to talk to their children and how to raise their children properly.
So the campaign has to be both ways.
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Campaign for women to learn how to raise their children.
I think so. So that
they can raise better men.
So that they can raise better men, better boys, with an understanding of so many things. Even this gender equality, equity, and parity we're talking about, we can't give it to ourselves, and apparently we cannot take it. So the men have to give it to us, and I think it's important to raise boys that know that there's nothing wrong with a boy sweeping. Just as his sister is sweeping.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with a woman achieving. You need to raise them with those principles so that when they get older, they are not threatened by a woman sitting at the head of the table.
They seem to be threatened because the lawmakers recently, this affirmative action for women, instead of increasing it, they even reduced it to, what percentage was it?
Well, the courts have now accepted 35.
The courts have overturned
it. They've accepted. Well, they've accepted some degree of affirmative action. And I think you're right. There must be some sort of fear, maybe if we let them out, they'll take over. I don't know. But every country where women are...
surprise.
Yeah, it was a surprise. It really was. It really was.
Because the world was moving forward to 45.
And then we're moving.
And they were moving
We have
backwards.
like 6% women in elective positions in Nigeria today, which is down from the last, I think, four regimes. But, we need to really push more. The evidence is there. It has shown that when you put a woman to lead, good things happen.
Yes, women are better managers.
Definitely, for resources.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely.
All right, thank you very much for your time. Zainab Marwa Abubakar, we've been talking women achievers with her, and this has been very enlightening, very insightful. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
My name is Marwa Abubakar. We look forward to another interesting woman achiever in our next episode. Join us again.